The wind tore through the Blackridge forest like a living thing, carrying the scent of pine smoke and something darker, fear. Elara Vale stood at the edge of the tree line, her wrists bound with silver thread rope that bit into her skin. Behind her, the men who had delivered her spat, muttered, and finally turned their horses toward the road, leaving her alone. She was supposed to be a payment, a debt owed to a monster that the villagers called the Beast. Legend said he was a creature born of nightmare, part man, part wolf, all predator. They said no woman sent to him ever returned, but as Elara stepped into the shadows, the forest seemed to part for her. The moon glinted on broken stones, revealing the ruins of a keep older than memory. A low growl rolled through the air, deep and deliberate, as if the forest itself were warning her away. And then she saw him, standing tall, broad-shouldered, eyes molten gold that burned through the darkness. Claws tipped his fingers, hair wild as the stormy sky. He looked at her, and instead of fury, hunger, or disdain, he whispered words that made her knees weaken. "You're not a payment. You're a gift." At that moment, everything she thought she knew about fear and desire shattered. "Absolutely, I'll begin. TP. The night she was delivered to the Beast, the moon hung low and red, like it was watching and judging. Elara Vale stood at the edge of the Blackridge forest, her hands bound with silver thread rope that burned her wrists, though she refused to let the men behind her see her flinch. The wind tore at her thin cloak, carrying the scent of pine, cold earth, and fear, her fear. "Go," one of them muttered. Another spat on the ground. "If she survives till dawn, it's no longer our problem." They did not say her name. They never did. To them she was not Elara, the girl who once laughed in the sunlit market, who pressed flowers between old books, who believed kindness could still exist in a broken world. Tonight, she was a payment, a debt, a living offering sent to the monster who ruled the forest beyond the reach of law, crown, or mercy. The Beast of Blackridge. Story said he was not fully wolf nor fully man, that his claws could tear stone, that his eyes glowed like dying stars, and that no woman sent to him had ever returned. The Alpha King who had rejected the council burned his banners and vanished into the wild after a massacre that stained history with blood. They said he fed on fear. They said he enjoyed breaking what was already fragile. Elara lifted her chin as the ropes were cut. Her legs trembled, but she forced them to hold. Pride was the only thing she had left, and she would not give that to the dark. Behind her, boots retreated, horses turned. The sound of civilization faded until there was nothing left but silence and the forest breathing around her. She was alone. The trees rose tall and skeletal, their branches clawing at the sky. Shadows shifted where nothing should move. Every instinct in her screamed to run, but run where? A low growl rolled through the forest. Not loud, not rushed. A warning. Elara's heart slammed against her ribs. So this is how it ends, she thought. She stepped forward. If she was going to die, she would not do it begging. The path into Blackridge Forest seemed to open on its own, moonlight spilling across ancient stones as though guiding her deeper. The air grew warmer, heavier. The scent changed, less pine, more smoke, iron, and something unmistakably wolf. Her foot brushed against bone. She froze. White fragments lay half buried along the path, not fresh but not ancient either. A reminder, a message. You do not belong here. She swallowed and kept walking. At the heart of the forest stood the ruins of a stone keep, cracked and blackened by fire long past. Vines crawled up its walls like veins reclaiming a dead heart. Torches flared to life as she approached, one by one, without anyone touching them. Magic, or him. Elara stepped into the courtyard, and then she felt it. The weight, an invisible pressure crashed down on her chest, stealing her breath. Power flooded the space, raw and untamed, older than kingdoms. The ground seemed to hum beneath her feet. She was being watched. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from the shadows. A massive figure emerged between the broken pillars. He was tall, inhumanly so, broad-shouldered, his presence filling the courtyard like a storm-given flesh. Dark hair fell past his shoulders, wild and unbound. His skin bore faint scars that caught the torchlight, each one a story written in pain. His eyes, Alara's breath caught. Gold, not human gold, but molten, burning with restrained fury and something far deeper. Something lonely. Claws tipped his fingers, not fully extended, not hidden either. He wore no crown, yet she knew this was a king. The beast of Blackridge, the alpha they feared. He looked at her the way one might look at a blade left on the ground, dangerous, unexpected, and not entirely unwanted. Silence stretched. Elara forced herself to speak. I was sent as payment. Her voice echoed far too loudly. For the land your pack claimed. For the blood spilled between our people. She lifted her chin higher, though tears burned behind her eyes. I belong to you now. The beast stared at her. Then slowly his gaze dropped, not to her face, to her wrists. Red marks. Burned skin, silver burns. His jaw tightened. Something dangerous flickered behind his eyes, not hunger. Anger. He took a step closer, then another. Alara's breath shook, but she did not retreat. He stopped inches from her. She could feel the heat of him. Smell smoke and wolf and something impossibly clean beneath it all. When he spoke, his voice was deep, rough, like thunder dragged through stone. Look at me. Her heart stuttered, but she obeyed. Their eyes locked. For a long moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Then he said slowly, with unmistakable certainty, You're not a payment. Elara blinked. Confusion shattered her fear. What? His gaze softened, just a fraction, but it hit harder than cruelty ever could. You're a gift, he said, and in that instant Elara knew two terrifying truths. The stories about the beast were wrong, and whatever he saw in her would change everything. T-beast do mine. Elara did not understand his words. A gift. The word echoed in her mind long after silence reclaimed the courtyard. The beast turned away from her without another word, his heavy boots scraping against stone as he walked toward the shattered keep. The torches flickered violently as he passed, bowing to him like living things that knew their master. Come, he said over his shoulder. Not a command, not gentle either. A certainty. Elara hesitated only a second before following. Staying behind felt far more dangerous than stepping into the darkness after him. Inside the keep, the air changed. The walls were thick, ancient, etched with claw marks and symbols that glowed faintly beneath centuries of soot. A massive hall opened before her, high ceiling, broken arches, and a fire roaring in a pit carved directly into the stone floor. This was not the lair of a mindless monster. It was a throne room stripped of ceremony. The beast stopped near the fire and finally turned back to her. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. Every inch of him coiled power, restrained violence, and something painfully controlled. Your name, he said. Elara swallowed. Alara Vale. He tasted it silently, as if testing the sound. I am Kale, he replied. Alpha of Blackridge, no titles, no boast, just truth. She nodded, unsure what to do with her hands, her fear slowly reshaping into something else, something dangerous. Curiosity. Kale's gaze never left her face. They bound you with silver. Yes, she said softly. They said it was necessary. His lip curled, not in a snarl but close. They lied. He stepped toward her again, slower this time. His claws retracted fully as he reached out, stopping inches from her wrists. May I? The question startled her more than his sighs ever could. Elara nodded. Kyle's fingers brushed her skin, warm and careful, the exact opposite of what she'd expected. He examined the burns with a low sound in his throat, not hunger. Regret. They sent you to provoke me, he said. To insult my pack. To remind me they still see us as beasts. Alara met his gaze. And what do you see? For a long moment, Cale said nothing. Then, someone who walked into death without screaming. His thumb brushed a silver mark, and she sucked in a breath, not from pain, but from the unexpected tenderness. You were never meant to survive this, he continued. That makes you dangerous. Her heart pounded. Dangerous. Yes, he said quietly. To them. He stepped back, breaking the contact far too soon. You will stay here, Cale said. No one will touch you. No one will claim you, not as payment, not as prey. And what about you? Alara asked before she could stop herself. The fire crackled between them. Cale's eyes darkened, the gold deepening to amber. I will protect you, he said. Whether you want it or not. A shiver ran through her, not fear, something warmer. Something forbidden. That night, Alara lay in a chamber carved into the keep's upper floor. Thick furs covered the bed, soft and impossibly clean. A single window opened to the moonlit forest beyond. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt watched over, not hunted. Her thoughts returned again and again to Kyle's touch, to the way his voice had softened when he said her name. You're a gift. She did not yet know what that meant. But somewhere deep in the forest, Cale stood on the battlements, staring at the moon and fighting instincts that had begun to wake for the first time in years. She smelled like fate, and fate, Cale knew, was far more dangerous than any enemy. Teegeans. The sun barely rose when the forest awoke in whispers. Mist curled between the trees like ghostly fingers brushing against Alara's window. She could hear the wind shift, smell the earth damp from last night's frost, and yet the air carried something else, a presence she couldn't ignore. Cale was out there, watching, waiting, protecting, and maybe testing. Alara dressed quickly, pulling the thick furs closer around her shoulders. She knew she shouldn't wander, but the forest called. Her curiosity had teeth. She stepped into the courtyard. Cale emerged from the shadows without a sound, as if the darkness itself carried him. His golden eyes, fierce and unreadable, followed her. You should not be out here, he said. His voice was low, edged with warning. I can't stay in that room all day. She replied, her voice steady, though her heart raced. I need to see where I am, who I'm with. He studied her for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned. The forest swallowed his form. Alara had no choice but to follow. They walked for hours through twisting paths that seemed impossible to navigate for any human. Each step she took, the forest bent around them, guiding their path with whispers of wind and rustling leaves. Kyle moved like a shadow made flesh, silent, predatory, aware of every creature around them. At last, they reached a clearing. The sunlight filtered through the canopy, illuminating a small herd of deer grazing. Cale stopped, his body tensed, muscles coiled like springs ready to strike. Stay behind me, he commanded, not harshly but firmly. Alara nodded. Her pulse quickened. She was about to witness something terrifying and magnificent. Cale shifted, his form blurring, elongating, limbs bending in ways no human could endure. His golden eyes flared as fur erupted across his skin. His jaw lengthened, fangs gleaming. In moments, he had transformed into a massive wolf, easily the size of a horse, black fur glistening with silver streaks in the sunlight. Alara gasped, her feet rooted to the ground. Cale, the beast, had become the predator every villager whispered about at night. But then he glanced back at her. You are safe, he said, his voice no longer human, yet she understood every word. Watch, learn. With a single bound he sprinted. The deer scattered like water from stone. One stag tried to flee, but Cale was faster, smarter, deadly. In moments the hunt was over. The stag lay trembling beneath his paw, and Cale's golden eyes, so intelligent, so unnervingly human, met hers again. Alara's heart was pounding, but not from fear, From awe. From the realization that the creature who could kill her in a heartbeat had chosen to protect her instead. You see, he said, shifting back to human form, hair and clothes rearranging themselves as if the wolf had never existed. I do not kill carelessly. Only those who threaten my land or those I care for. Alara's gaze met his unflinching this time. And I'm under your protection now. Kale stepped closer. His face was a mixture of human and beast, the wild still in his eyes. Yes, and if anyone tries to take you, they will not live to tell the tale. For a moment, silence fell between them. The forest seemed to lean in, listening. Then Elara dared to ask the question that had been clawing at her heart since she arrived. And what am I to you? Cal's gaze softened, dangerous yet tender, a storm that could either destroy or protect. His hand brushed hers, a touch electric enough to send shivers down her spine. You are more than a payment, he said almost reluctantly, as if the words themselves were hard to admit. You are something I never expected, something I cannot let go. Alara's chest tightened. She realized with terrifying clarity that the beast had already claimed a part of her heart, and in turn, she had claimed something from him too. And neither of them would ever be the same again. Sech dos off tea passed. The forest had a heartbeat, and Elara could feel it now. Every rustle, every shadow seemed alive, watching her. She had been with Kale for 3 days, yet every moment with him felt like walking a blade's edge, thrilling, terrifying, intoxicating. They returned to the keep just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The torches flickered to life, casting long, golden shadows across the walls. Kale moved silently, almost gliding, while Elara struggled to keep up, her curiosity pulling her forward faster than her legs could manage. Inside the hall, Kale paused near a large tapestry that depicted a battle centuries old. The threads were faded, but the image was clear, humans clashing with wolves, a king at the center of it all, proud, defiant, dangerous. That was my pack, Kale said, his voice low, almost reverent. Long before me, before the world wanted to forget us. Elara stepped closer, her eyes scanning the tapestry. You were born into this. He shook his head. I was born into the aftermath. By the time I came of age, the world had already declared war on us. Every village near these woods, every noble family, they saw us as monsters. And maybe we were, but not all of us. Elara swallowed. The weight of history pressed on her, suffocating and raw. And that makes you the beast. Cal's eyes darkened, amber deepening like molten gold. The beast is what they called me. A name born of fear. But fear can be turned into loyalty, into power. It can protect those you care about if you know how to wield it. She felt a shiver crawl up her spine. And me? His gaze softened. You are my responsibility. And something more, though I do not yet understand it fully. The words left a strange ache in her chest, dangerous, sweet, confusing. She had come to the forest as a payment. She had expected chains, cruelty, maybe death. Instead, she had found him, and he was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with claws or teeth. Night fell deeper. The wind howled outside as Cal led her to a balcony overlooking the forest. Mist rolled like spirits between the trees. In the pale moonlight, his wolf form shimmered faintly at the edges, as if the beast inside him could never be fully contained. Lara, he said, voice thick with something unspoken. You need to understand the world you've stepped into. These woods, they're not empty. Not anymore. Enemies move in shadows, others covet what I protect. Her breath caught. Enemies. Yes, human hunters, rogue packs, even those who pretend to be allies. Some want to challenge me. Some want to capture you, some want both. She glanced at him, heart racing. And you can fight them all. Cal's lips curved into a half-smile, dangerous, wolfish. I am not invincible, but I am not weak either, and neither are you. Alara frowned. What can I do? You are clever, he said, eyes glinting. And brave, more than anyone expected. That alone makes you a threat to them. Her stomach tightened. She hadn't expected this. She had come to the forest as a commodity. Now she was part of something far bigger than herself, something alive, dangerous, and consuming. Cal leaned closer, and the golden hue of his eyes caught the moonlight. And one day soon, he said, voice low, you'll understand why I called you a gift, and why letting you go is something I could never do. The words sent a pulse of heat through her, a shiver, not of fear, but of desire. She wanted to reach out, to touch, to trust, to risk. But the forest whispered its warning, the old bones of past debts and battles rustling like distant echoes. Elora had survived the first test, but the next was coming, and it would not be fought in safety or in shadows. It would be fought in fire, blood and heartbeats that would refuse to obey reason. Because in the forest, no one was truly safe, not even the beast. Teach first Kial. The dawn came like a thief, pale light creeping over the Blackridge forest. Elora awoke to the scent of wet earth and smoke, a faint tang of iron in the air. Something was wrong. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. She dressed quickly and stepped onto the balcony. The forest below was alive with motion, too much for the usual morning calm. Shadows moved between the trees, too deliberate to be deer, too silent to be wind. Cale appeared behind her, massive and silent. Even in human form, his presence dominated the space like gravity itself. They're here, he said simply. No anger, no fear, just observation. Elora's pulse quickened. Ooh, hunters, Cale replied. Not the ordinary kind. They've been tracking me and now they've found you. They think taking you will force me out into the open. She shivered. What do we do? Cale's eyes darkened, gold burning to amber. We prepare. The keep transformed into a fortress in minutes. Cale summoned the wolves of his pack from the shadows, creatures sleek and massive, eyes glowing with intelligence and feral loyalty. They formed silent circles around the keep, a living wall. Elora stayed close, watching him move among them. Even as a wolf, Cal was commanding. Every movement precise, every growl controlled. She had never seen power like it, raw, dangerous, yet restrained. We cannot fight them all, Cale said finally, turning to her. But we can fight smart. You stay here, understand? Elora nodded, though her stomach twisted. I want to help. His gaze softened, almost imperceptibly. Then listen, watch, learn, and do exactly as I say. By midday the forest erupted, shadows shifted, and the sound of snapping branches signaled the hunters' arrival. They were men armed with silver-tipped weapons, trained dogs, and strange charms designed to bind beasts. Cale led the first counterattack alone. She watched as he shifted seamlessly into wolf form, leaping between hunters with impossible speed, his claws flashing like lightning. The sound of growls, snarls, and steel clashing echoed across the clearing. Elora's heart raced. She wanted to run into the fray, but Cale's earlier words held her back. She could not fight, not yet. Then one of the hunters spotted her. A man raised his crossbow, aiming directly at her chest. Now, Cale's voice thundered, not human but clear in her mind. The ground beneath her shivered as Cale leaped, intercepting the bolt with a swipe of his massive paw. The hunter fell back, startled. The battle raged, but Cale's presence was unstoppable. Every strike, every leap, every roar left a trail of chaos. Elora realized with a mixture of fear and awe that the beast was not just powerful, he was invincible in ways no human could comprehend. And yet he was protecting her always. As the hunters retreated, defeated and trembling, Cal returned to human form. His chest heaved, his clothes torn, but his eyes, those molten golden eyes, locked on hers with something deeper than relief. You're safe, he said, voice low, rough with adrenaline and something unspoken. Elara stepped closer, her heart pounding in a dangerous rhythm. I didn't run, she admitted, her voice trembling. He tilted his head, studying her. You should have. I couldn't, she whispered. Not after seeing you. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Cal's hand brushed hers, a fleeting touch, but enough to make her shiver. You're reckless, he said, voice softening. And dangerous. But so am I. Their eyes met. In that charged silence, Elara realized she was no longer the girl who had been sent as a payment. She was a part of something, him, his world, his danger, his fire. And for the first time she understood why he had called her a gift. Because some gifts could change everything.